One of the keys for me to successfully breed mite-resistant bees is I will need to have numbers. Part of my plan is to always go into winter with the same number of nucleus colonies that I have full-size colonies. So if I have 100 colonies, that means I will also need to have 100 nucleus colonies. That way, when any colony crashes due to mites or poor genetics, I can just plug and play with a colony from one of my nukes. I think this aspect is crucial to breeding mite-resistant bees, that and good genetics. So why treatment-free, you may ask? Well, you see, I see the problem that we're trying to domesticate something that shouldn't be domesticated. What do you think the consequences are going to be when we breed a honeybee that is 100% reliant on us in order to survive? Because that is 100% what is going to happen if we keep going the direction that we're going. And how will that affect all of our wild bees and all of the flowers that they pollinate that honeybees can't? And what will the trickle-down effect of that be? You think that our food prices now are high? Look at it again when half of our pollinators are wiped out. But I don't mean to scare you by saying any of this. All I'm saying is that I just want you to stop and think about what is going on and become aware. So for everybody who keeps asking me why and how am I going to be treatment-free sustainably, well, just keep following along on this journey and you'll find out. Welcome back. We have got a lot of work to do today in the bee yard, so I figured I would take you guys along so that, as always, we can learn together. So let's get straight into it. First, I need to check on two of my weaker hives. They have been my weakest all year, but judging by the looks of this one down here, it's doing much better. So I need to check on both of them, see how they're doing, and make sure they're going to be getting ready for winter. I will also be doing alcohol washes today. I was going around a couple days ago checking all of my colonies that tested high a month ago when I was doing washes, and one of the colonies that I tested, oh my gosh, as soon as the bees hit like the Dawn dish soap water, it was a waterfall of mites just like pouring down. I'll put a picture up, but it ended up being somewhere around like 60 mites. There were so many mites in that container that I couldn't even count them all. So yeah, I'm gonna go around and check to see how all of my hives are doing. It's good to know what your mite count is. I will end up treating some of my hives this year. This will be the last year that I am treating, just because I know I don't have the genetics that are required to be treatment-free. Like I keep saying, in the spring, I'm going to be bringing in some better genetics. I'm going to be bringing in some breeder queens. So yeah, I'm going to have to treat, even though it kills me to do that this year. That way I can make sure I still have my numbers next year. So yeah, we're going to check that today too. The Goldenrod Flow has definitely hit, and you can definitely tell because all of these hives, there's been a lot of activity going on. And they've been building up pretty quickly. See how they're backfilling a lot of these cells with honey? They're doing this because the bees that are bringing in honey, they bring it in and then they just pass it to a worker and they put it here as quickly as possible, so that they can go back and collect more honey from the next incoming bee. And then over time, they will put this up to the second box. So when you start seeing this means you are definitely on a flow. So this is really good to see. The fall flow is definitely here. This is a perfect time to start checkerboarding because one, this is going to cause the queen to tell them to draw out that comb, because they're already backfilling all of her cells that she wants to lay in with honey. So this will also give the queen more space to lay, and it'll get some of your frames drawn out much quicker than they normally would. because they also have all of that nectar coming in, so that's energy that they can use to build wax. So one thing that no beekeeper ever likes seeing is, do you see that bee right there with the black top? Now, at one point, I was told that when you see a bee like this that is starting to lose their hairs, you can see a couple other ones too, that, oh, they're just getting old and they're losing their hairs. No, actually, matter of factly, that bee has a virus, and that is why they're losing their hairs. So that doesn't mean you need to be extremely alarmed. Bees can overcome viruses on their own. Now, it is difficult, but you need to make sure they have enough resources. Food is huge. If they have enough nutrients, they're going to be strong enough to overcome that virus on their own. They're going to be able to fly out of the hive, find things to help self-medicate. There's a lot of new studies coming out about things that will help with that, and I'm actually running a trial on a couple of those things, but I can't spill the beans on that yet. That will be coming eventually. But yeah, so when you see a bee like that, not like you can really do much about it, but just so that you know that that is a sign of a virus. Now, a time when you should be alarmed is if you ever see dead bees in front of your hive. That is not good, and they're most likely dying from that virus. Mainly only if you're seeing a lot of dead bees in front of your hive. That could be a sign of chronic bee paralysis virus. That is what I'm thinking, that some of the bees that are in this colony that have that black on them, that is what I'm thinking that this virus is, because that is one of the symptoms. They sometimes only show some symptoms. Sometimes they may not show some of the chronic and detrimental symptoms of shaking and then being paralyzed and end up dying, because there's a couple different strains of that virus. But just giving you guys a little bit more knowledge, even though the sucky thing about viruses is there's nothing really you can do as a beekeeper, because since it is a virus, there's really no way that you can treat it. You just want to make sure that you're trying to make that colony as strong as possible so that they can overcome it on their own. So last time I tested this colony, it tested at 0. Both this colony and the colony over there are 2 of my original 3 that I've had. And ever since they've been breeding with the local bees, they've been getting more and more mite resistant. So I will not be surprised if I see 0 mites once again, because somehow they are controlling for mites. I have not tested either of these colonies at all this year. I have tested them once, and that was last year with Formic. So we'll see how this goes. Okay. Wow. Like I said, 0 mites. Pretty impressed that they're actually still at that though. Now, I do also want to mention though that this colony had a very, very big brood break this last spring. This was my weakest colony coming out of winter. This is the colony that I've talked about that I did not give them enough food. So I was feeding them throughout the winter, but I still wasn't feeding them quite enough. So half of the colony died going into spring. But the other half did survive, but it took them a while to build back up because then they also requeened for some reason. So this colony also had a brood break. So yeah, I've been reading some research that brood breaks really do make a difference. I haven't decided yet whether that will be something I will integrate next year when I go fully treatment free, because depending on who you talk to, that still is considered a treatment, and the mites could still evolve in a way to be able to withstand that. So I don't know, we'll see. But for anyone else who wants to know more, brood breaks do make a difference when it comes to mite counts. It actually takes a pretty big hit on them, so definitely make use of that. So that colony over there is looking really good now. They're building up pretty quickly. Now let's check on this one. This one was wanting to swarm on me, and I was a little late when I had gotten to them. Definitely a learning curve there for me. but because of that, it kind of took a hit on them. So let's see if they're building back up. Oh, and it looks like they have been. Small hive beetle has been terrible this year, man. Oh, and there goes a mouse. Like I said, small hive beetle has been terrible. These are what small hive beetles look like. But as long as you don't see eggs, they're not that big of a deal. And as long as you have a strong colony. I think this is going to be my testing frame. Oh, would you look at that? Now this is a prime example of chronic bee paralysis virus. Do you see that black bee over there on the corner of the frame? That is a symptom. When you see an all black bee like that, some think that that bee is just getting old, but actually, no, that bee is sick. Now, some show symptoms, others don't show symptoms. All of the black bees that I've seen have been very productive, and I have not seen any dead bees in front of my hives, so this colony's been working through it on their own. But yeah, but at least that's just what I know so far from some of the research I've been reading. So if I'm not correct on this, please correct me. It would be cool if this is just a genetic of bee that I have that is all black. That would be really cool. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think as well. Because yeah, I also noticed I have a lot of darker colors in this hive. It's probably hard for you to tell on the camera, but a lot of my bees are just barely even yellow and lots of black. So it could just be a genetic of bee, or it could be the virus. Just like I said, I've never seen any sick bees that are shaking or paralyzed and can't move. So they say another symptom is if when you look at the bees, their wings are they're holding them in sort of like a K. All right, let's test for some mites. Also, one reason too why I kind of question maybe it's not that virus is just because I've noticed in these colonies that the more they requeen, that the darker the bees get. So that tells me whatever species of wild bee I have here is a very dark colored bee. So it could be a Russian. Africanized bees really wouldn't survive up here. At one point I did kind of think they could be partially Africanized because of how aggressive they were, but they haven't been that aggressive since last year, and I think that might have just been my mistake with some newbie mistakes. But Africanized bees really can't withstand our winters up here, and both of these colonies did really good overwintering, well, except the one running out of food. But yeah, all of them made it out, so that's considered they did okay. Africanized bees, I don't think they would be able to make it out through the winter. So I'm starting to wonder, okay, so those beetle jails, they definitely do kill small hive beetles, but I'm starting to wonder if actually it's not that good of an idea to put them in your hive, just because it's going to attract the small hive beetles to your hive. This board, when I pulled it out, was coated with at least like 20 small hive beetles. So yeah, those jails may kill the small hive beetles, but now that I'm starting to use them more and more, I'm starting to think that actually it may be a bad thing to put those in your hive, because like I said, you're putting apple cider vinegar in your hive, so they're going to be able to smell it and they're going to want to walk in, and they're going to tell all their buddies to come in too. So but like I said, as long as you don't see any slime and gross stuff and eggs and whatnot, then the bees will keep them under wraps. You don't have to worry about them too much. At least that's what I've seen so far. I've never had any small hive beetle eggs in my hive. I don't see any mites on this bottom board either, but yeah. Okay, so we have 1, 2, And that is it. Wait, nope, there's 3 there. There's 3 mites right there, but that's not bad at all. That's actually really good going into winter. Last time I checked this colony, it was at 0, so yep, that's good. Behind the scenes of making videos.